Hey everybody. How's everyone doing today? Good. Before we get started, there's a lot of ambient sound going on, and I know that sometimes my I've got to fix it. I know you can fix it. So I want to look at what my setting should be. Attack time, how long it takes for the mic to go from off to on as a fade in. So I want a fast attack time. Let me see if I can fix this. We're gonna adjust this. Rhythm Melody, how you doing? I'm gonna try and add a noise gate to my microphone today. Attack time 25, hold time is 200, release time is 150. But everybody's telling me that it can't hear me talk, so we must fix that. Attack time 200, release time 150. That's what it's supposed to be. Okay, open threshold and cold threshold. When the mic drops below this volume, the noise gate will turn off the microphone. Okay. Open on that one. Okay. I don't know what to do. I mean, we could keep that on. Hopefully it'll help. Should we just give it a shot? Okay, let me know. Maybe I just need to hold my microphone closer. Okay, we're gonna turn this on. See what happens. Okay, so it should be a clearer sound altogether, but hopefully it's not muting me, missing all the stuff I'm saying. So. Does that sound maybe slightly better? Maybe there's less echo in the room. I don't know. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure this stuff out. How's everybody doing? So today we're gonna do something a little different. We're not gonna start off with an in-class assignment. I sent the message out. We are going to discuss UV unwrapping. And so to do that, we're gonna talk about our little gumdrop dude. We're gonna unwrap him and start painting on him. But just for my students who are in the chat, how many of you know what UVWs are? And here we can use it. So today we are going to discuss UVs. Yeah, you're not sure. That's great. That's perfect. Do you know what X, Y, and Z axes are? Never heard of it. That's perfect. So X, Y, Z, if you look in Maya, that is the 3 dimensions, right? So you're looking at up is the Y axis. The one that actually moves horizontally is typically the X, and the one that points in at you is the Z axis. Basically, any point or marking on within that grid defines what a 3D object is, right? We'll explain this a little better, but basically that's the 3 dimensions. We should just look at this inside Maya. But essentially, when you have a cube in Maya, or anything else, right? It's built in 3D space. So what we want to do is be able to paint on this object, right? So we have different components that make up this cube. Each corner of the box is a vertice, right? Call it a vert for short. Each edge of the box is an edge. And this is the face. So those are the components that make up a polygon object. So if you think about a polygon object in 3D, what we need to do is flatten this out into 2D space so we can paint on it on a 2D image. So think about any kind of packaging or breakfast cereal box or anything you get from the store. It all can break down into a flat object, right? So if a box, we were to break that down into a flat 2D object, this might be one of the panels, right? This would be another panel, the two flaps that come out. And because a box has how many sides? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides, or 6 faces make up a box. So if we were to flatten this out, and this were A, this were B, and this were C on those sides, the accompanying sides on this box, and this could be wrong, would be C, A, B, D, F. So each side of those boxes would then fold up and create that box. So hopefully this will make sense because we're going to go over this several times in class. This is the first time I'm introducing it because so far we've only built polygon models. We haven't actually painted on them. So if you fold this box out into 2D space, say this were on a piece of paper now, and you took scissors and you cut that up, you could conceivably fold it back up into the box shape, right? Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Well, the way that we're able to define that 3D object in 2D space is basically by using its vertices and edges. Just like the 3D model, when we fold it out, we just have to cut the edges and separate it out so that we can fit it flat on a 2D image. So it goes without saying, but that's 3D, and that is 2D. So these vertices on here, they match up to the vertices on the cube. Totally just use the color. So on the cube, those vertices on the cube would match up to the vertices on that 2D space. So, however, if we just called those XYZ coordinates, that would cause confusion because we want to make sure that we know that these are on 2D space. So I always thought that maybe there was an interesting reason why they call them UVs. But really, those are just the 3 numbers prior to XYZ on the alphabet. So UVs are basically just UVWs. But they correspond with the vertices on the 3D object mapped out onto a 2D space. They then can be folded back up onto this, right? Is everybody with me so far? So, if that doesn't make perfect sense right now, let's put it into action a little bit. Let's say goodbye to Ryan Do. Okay, and then let's open up Maya really quick. And we're going to put this into action. So someone just said no, so I think they said that didn't make sense. But that's okay, because we're getting into it, right? So let's crack open Maya. Alex said, bring back Professor Do. No, I'm not going to. Sorry. Here's the problem. If you get too much Professor Do, then it no longer becomes special. And I want Professor Do to be special. Okay, so here's the gumdrop guy we modeled a few days ago. We're actually gonna paint him today. We're gonna start the painting process. The in-class assignment tomorrow will be, I'm gonna give him to you all unwrapped, and you're gonna paint your own version of this beautiful gumdrop guy. But courtesy today, I'm actually going to show you how to do it today before you do it tomorrow. Then we'll spend the last 2 hours of class today working on our models. You'll work on yours. I'll help you guys where you need it. And in the meantime, I'll be working on my Rocket Raccoon model, so you can check that out and see what's going on. Well, let's bring a box back into our scene. So here's a box just like that one I just drew in Photoshop. We'll call it the same thing, just like I showed you. It's made up of vertices. And if you want to look at the X, Y, Z coordinates in Maya, you only have to look at this manipulator here. This yellow arrow represents the y-axis. This blue arrow represents the x-axis, and the red arrow represents depth, or the z-axis. So any point, you can define any point within, based on those three axes in 3D space, right? So this vertice has a position in 3D space, as well as this one that makes up this 3D cube. But what we want to do is define what the texture would be on a 2D space. So conveniently, let's just go up here to UV, which is short for UVW, but these are the 2D coordinates. And we're going to click on this first green box that says UV editor, and it'll bring up an editor that will allow us to edit the UV coordinates. So we hit that, and you can see in my image that it brings up kind of the box that we recreated in Photoshop. Cubes conveniently come already unwrapped. We actually don't have to do anything. But you'll notice in this view, this flattened view of this box, that all the polygons have been splayed out. So that if you bent those on their edges, you could put the box back together conceivably. So what we want to do is we can actually see which of these correspond to the different faces. So if I go into face mode on here, you can see it switch faces on the cube. So each of these little squares represent a face on that box. So conceivably, we can paint a picture on that box. So let's do that. Let's bring this into Photoshop. So the easy way to do that, and we're just not going to adjust it at all, but I will show you that if I right-click on this object, I can go to UV mode, and I can actually move the UVs. Notice they don't move in 3D space. It just moves the 2D representation of them. So we are able to edit and move those around. This is always a fun, complex concept to be introduced to. Occasional player. Welcome, my professorial friend. Okay, so here we go. So what we're going to do is I am going to create a 2D image that I can then bring into Photoshop, and we can do add some color to it, and then bring it in and paste it onto this 2D box. Let's do that. And for this first assignment with these characters, we're only doing one color map, so it's just color that we're worried about because we're just introducing you to texture mapping. So I'm going to look at this space here, and I'm going to go to Edit. Where is it? It's under Image, UV Snapshot. I'm going to select that, and it's going to give me some options, such as the size of this texture map, with his 2048 is what they try to give it to me in the beginning. That is massive. We're just going to go, this is going to be low resolution. We're going to go 512. And then it's going to do the edge color for me. And the image format, I definitely don't want an IFF. That's a Maya format that nobody uses. You can do a PNG, you can do a JPEG. I like to use Targas. They're pretty standard in the game industry, and they've always done me well. I'm going to browse to the right place to put this, which is in teaching. So we'll call this, and I'm going to name it Cube UV Snap. Occasional player says the UV index today in Salt Lake City was 11.2. That does not help us at all. Watch out for occasional player. If you come out to the Utah campus, he may be walking around, and avoid him like the plague. Just run away if you see him. That's my recommendation. Okay, so we're just gonna hit apply and close. Actually, I think I want to make the edge color black. No, I'm gonna leave it white. We'll see what happens. Apply and close. You must select a valid object. So I'm in UV mode. So I need to select the object. Yep. Hit apply and close. So that saved out my UV snapshot. So here's what we're going to do, my friends. We're going to open up Photoshop here. Slide it on up here. And I'm going to open up that targa I saved out. Right here, it's called Cube UV Snap. Hit open, and so here is that representation, right? It took a picture of it for me. So then now I have something to paint on. And notice the background is black and the edges are white. And I always mix those up, but in Photoshop, that's pretty easy to adjust. I'm going to go to Image, Adjustment. I think there's an invert right here. And we can invert that. Now we have black lines and white background. And here's a little trick for your UVs. Keep in mind, we're going to go over this over and over again, but I'm going to duplicate this layer in Photoshop. This will now become my master layer. And I think I'm just going to export this as JPEGs to bring back into Maya just for convenience today. I used to be super picky. I used to get very upset if my students turned in JPEGs or Targa instead of Targas. They'd argue with me how much better PNGs are. I don't know. You can use either. So we are going to take this background image and I'm going to change this to, I'm just going to call it UVs. And then the background, I'm going to create one more layer, a new layer underneath that. And this is where I'm going to paint on. We'll call this paint layer. And the background itself, I'm going to fill with white. Okay, I'm going to fill that with white. And this top UV layer, I want to make it so I can paint underneath it and still see my outlines, my markers. So to do that, if you change the setting from normal to multiply, it'll do that for you. Now watch this. So if I grab a color and paint underneath, I can still see above it. Okay, so here we go. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna do a really easy, quick pass on this. Just so the thing is a solid color, I'm just gonna select this and select. I'm gonna make this a green box. Fill foreground color. So this would change the entire box to green. Yes, occasional player. We're covering the basics here, bud. Okay, so there's the green layer. You can still see those lines. I'm going to grab my pen and just so we can see the different, you know what, we'll make a set of die, okay? So here's the 1 dot. This one will be 2. That's how they do a set of die. Here's the 3. 4. Some fancy texture work. 5. Just to show. 6. And with the UV up here, I can turn on and off that grid. So this is the texture map we've just created. The 3 is awesome, bro. Okay. This is my problem with teaching classes on Twitch. I get harassed by trolls. Like I said, if you ever go to the University of Utah campus, occasional player, aka Ryan Dew, aka Professor Dew, the biggest troll of them all, he will troll you. So I'm going to export this image. Export as, because I like to. And you know what? We're gonna do a PNG. Go crazy here. Export ourselves a PNG. We're gonna call it cube color. Seems pretty good. We're gonna hit OK. Exported that bad boy. Let's see if we can now put it on this object. Minimize that. So now I want to add that new fancy texture I just made onto this cube. And then, okay, so we're going to do this. So we're going to go to Windows, Rendering Editors, Like I say, this is something that you'll learn in Maya, how to go through the motions. So things are never crazy simple. Other ways to find this. We're going to go to the hypershade. Luckily, none of this is due tomorrow. And by default, these are the textures. These cubes represent, oh, I lost my, they represent the materials that'll add colors to this. So I'm going to create a new material. We're just going to create a Lambert. Very basic. And we want to add a color to this. So there's, with adding materials in Maya, you have this node-based system, and you also have the traditional object or attributes. I am more comfortable with the object attributes because that was what I learned on. But this node-based system is more similar to like most rendering software as well as Unreal. But I am going to rename this Lambert over here to box color, box green, I guess maybe. That way I can see the different color up here. So I'm going to add my material. So over here in this colors tab over here, right above my head, I'm going to click on this little checkbox, this little checkered flag, right, of color. We'll click on that. It opens up a dialog box here and gives you a whole bunch of options. The option I'm going to choose is file on here. Fourth down, file. We're going to select file, and then we're going to check our image file again. Go to where I saved that PNG. Colors. There it is right there. So I'm going to hit OK on that. Open. And you can see it changed the color to green up here on the box green material. And here's how we add it to our character. We're just going to go to our box screen here, hold down our middle mouse wheel, and you'll see a little plus sign appears. I'm going to keep it held down and drag onto my scene and let go on my box. Now trust me, it gave it that color, but we can't see it yet because we're only looking at things in grayscale in our scene. So to actually be able to see the color, you have to hit the 6 key on your keyboard. Kind of weird, I know, but it works. So now you can see that amazing Photoshop texture I created, right? So we have a die, man. We're ready to go play. So that's how you texture a very simple object. But what I want to show you too is, let's look at this for a minute. And see if we go to our UV editor, now we can see that texture that I painted in Photoshop. You zoom out, you see you have a big grid with 0 to 1 or 0, 0, 0 space on it. If you're creating a texture that is unique for a character like this, you can only have the UVs within this 0 to 1 space. That's what it's going to take an image of. But I can still grab these UVs and scale them and stretch them. You remember in the UV editor, I showed you that I could move the UVs and it wouldn't change its position in 3D, but it does change how the texture map is displayed. So if I stretch the UVs in here, you can see I'm stretching out the texture or compressing it. You can also grab them all in their entirety and scale them out, and you'll see that texture will again, or scale it in. Okay, so that is the basics of UV mapping and texturing. I'm always so hesitant and nervous to share this information because it's so alien when you're just starting out in Maya, and it confuses a lot of beginners. But trust me, everything takes repetition to get better at and to improve on. And it's like, here's the way I always mention it. It's kind of like when you taste a new food for the first time, it tastes weird. But then after you've tried it several times, it makes sense and it tastes good. Just like when you're introduced to a new concept or a new word or a new vocabulary, or you're trying to learn a new language, you forget it easily the first time you hear it, and it takes several times before it clicks and starts to make sense. Unless you're a crazy genius like Occasional Player, who only needs to hear things one time. Like, that guy is so weird. Like, he remembers things I told him 10 years ago that I've forgotten. You're welcome. You want me to see me do a D20? I could do a D20. Okay. So how do we go from texture mapping this guy to this character? Because if I look at his, here's his UV map, right? It's a hot mess. They're all overlapped. In fact, just for fun, we want to see how these look mapped out. And one of the things sometimes you'll want to do on an object is put a grid texture on, so you can make sure that everything lines up evenly and looks correct. So to do that, I'm actually going to go to the internet and I'll show you guys. We're going to go over here and we're going to do a Google search for UV texture grid. There are tons of free ones on the internet. These are all grids that people have made to help them map out their texture sizes and make sure their models are UV unwrapped efficiently. So I never make my own because you can just hop on here and get your own. In fact, let's just look for a 512 grid. So here we go. I'm just going to select one. Images, checkered pattern. This one looks cool. All right, I like this one. So we're going to select this one. Save this image to my computer. Download. We're going to call it UV checker. Borrowing from the internet, my friend. It's the greatest thing ever. So I'm gonna add this to a new material. So I'm gonna go to Window, Rendering Editors, Hypershade again. I'm gonna create a new Lambert. Maybe I can just select this one and duplicate. Actually, I can. I think I can just select it and hit Control D. Didn't work. Doesn't work. Sad. Okay, so I'm just gonna select a new Lambert here. Double click that. We're gonna add a color to this one. Go to File, just like we did before. Select that file, and where is my checkerboard? Under modeling, I think it's in my Rocket. UV checker. Here we go. We're gonna add that to one of these. You can see it's nice and beautiful up here on this display. Now I'm gonna drag and drop that onto my cube to show what it looks like. Mouse drag onto my cube. So you can see it matches up perfectly on this cube. This cube is UV unwrapped deliciously. Practice import and applying files. That's right, occasional player. So Alex asks, why not use the checkerboard that Maya has? I've always had issues with that one. I'm sure they've fixed it since then, but back in the previous versions, it was applied mathematically and it always messed up for me, so I don't use it. But if that's your bag, everybody models differently. So no specific reason, Alex, other than this is the way I'm teaching. Okay, so I want to see what this looks like now on the gumdrop dude. Look at that. Looks terrible. We have some big stretched out cube checkerboard patterns and these little tiny ones where it auto wrapped like the shoulders. It's where I extruded and applied things. These fingers are just completely stretched. So basically, he needs some love. He needs some care. And so we're going to unwrap. Unwrap him so that it looks as close to this as possible. So the trick with unwrapping spherical objects is, so imagine you have an orange and you want to roll it out completely flat like a globe. Doesn't matter how carefully you unwrap that orange, you're going to break it and it's going to crack and it's going to have pieces. Some pieces might be small, some pieces might be big, but it's going to be ugly. So basically we're trying to unwrap this as best as possible to unwrap circular strange shapes so that we can put them back together. And the best way to look at for way that's done in the real world is with clothing. So I want to unwrap UVs just like I would pants or a shirt, or when you're unskinning your head, which sounds really bad. But even with shirts and clothing, clothing makers are very meticulous of where they put seams, right? So they don't typically want to have a seam going down the middle of your shirt or along the side. It looks ugly and it's noticeable. So they try to put them, underneath the armpit and up the side. They can't help but put some on the shoulders, so they put them there. And then sometimes you have to have one up along the top. In 3D modeling, we don't, but it's kind of the same concept. Seams are your enemy when it comes to unwrapping. So we want to have as few seams as humanly possible with these. So I'm going to unwrap him. And then in a few days, you guys are going to unwrap your own models, so you'll yourselves. But here is the deal with my gumdrop dude. I'm just going to, spoiler alert, he's symmetrical. We modeled him symmetrical. And like I said, with computers, you want to do the least amount of work as possible if you can replicate that. The easiest way to do that is to only have to unwrap half of the model. It will also save up our texture space later, which we'll get into. So to start off with, I'm going to save myself the hassle of unwrapping half of this fella by deleting half of him. We can always bring him back. I'm going to delete half of this attractive little gumdrop dude. Now I have a lot less to deal with. So you'll see if I go into face mode, let's try and break this apart a little. I'll just break into the motions here. So when I start unwrapping a character or anything, I like to do it in sections that make sense. So the head, the arms, the torso, I kind of break it up like I do clothing to make my life easier. So I can unwrap them in sections. And we're going to keep going over a lot of tools over and over again. So we're going to start with the head. So I'm not going to go over every unwrapping tool. I'm going to show them to you, but this is really this intro to Maya. I kind of talked about it before. This isn't the way occasional player likes to teach. He just likes to dump every single possible option on you. But I like to give you the important ones first and let you build off those. So I'm just going to give you the necessary tools, but just keep in mind there are many ways to do the same thing in Maya. Everyone has an opinion on how it should be done, but we're just going to do it the Gabe way here. So here's how we're going to start unwrapping, and this is a good rule of thumb when you guys unwrap your own characters, is I'm going to grab it by sections. So I'm going to highlight the faces on the head and the neck on this character, and you can see right now they look like a cube because I started out with a cube. And up here in UV, you have some options here. The UV editor, camera-based, best plane, they all do different things. My favorite go-to tool is this one called automatic. So automatic unwrapping just does the best plane it thinks is possible and breaks them up into a bunch of pieces that we can then sew back together. But what it does is it gives us nice uniform UVs. So I'm going to click on automatic. And you can see it automatically split it up down here. Just to make my life easier too, I'm going to move all these UVs away, all those ones that were in my grid pattern, because they're really hurting my feelings. These head UVs were not where I want them to be. So I'm going to redo that. I'm going to select the head again down to the neck and go to UV automatic. Boom, and it throws it up here in my 0 to 1 grid, and now I'm going to move it out of the way so I can actually see them. I could turn off this image by clicking on the image right here. So that's just another message, so it's still in 0 to 1. And you can see, even though there are seams everywhere, the size and shape of those those checkers are really nice. They're really automatically perfect. And if I hover over any of these edges, the corresponding edge in Maya will light up, and its twin will light up on this side. So I can see that this is the center of the face right here. So I'm going to start sewing these pieces of orange back together, essentially, the skin of this face. show you how it works. If I grab any of the vertices in, or the UVs in the model, control right click, I can go to the shell, actually grab that whole shell and move it over if it's hard to grab. But I'm going to start sewing this so you can see it moves corresponding on the model to those pieces that it's selected. And I'm going to go to edge mode and marquee over these edges on the side. Basically, I'm grabbing a little bit of the face here and I want to connect it all the way back around. If I select those, one of my next favorite tools in the UV editor is move and sew. It'll actually take pieces and move and sew them right together. Basically glue these three edges back to these three. If I hold down shift, the hot box right above is move and sew. Snap that on, and you can see it moved the smaller piece over to the bigger piece. Grab the shell, I'm gonna move it back out, and you can see there's no longer a seam right here on this section. So pretty good, pretty good. So now I'm gonna work on sewing the rest of this head back together. So this piece goes to the back of the head. Move and sew that one. These ones are so close together, I may as well move and sew them. Move and sew that. See what that was connected to. So that's the top of the head. Kind of weird. We're just going to move and sew that on. I am now afraid that if I sew these pieces on here, it'll start warping. And so I actually don't like the way I sewed that. So I'm going to fix it a little more. I think I may change this up a little bit. Let's try something like that. Good enough. I don't know. There is a seam here. Snap it on. You can see it kind of anywhere you have non-uniform planes that you're trying to squish together, it starts to squish a little bit. A little bit is okay, but you want to avoid too much. But that's okay. We'll live with that for the head. I don't know. I wanted to connect some more. But you can see that the more you go, the more it actually looks like the head. And now this piece right here is stretched because it had to stretch up to fit on that piece up there. I can try and fix it as best I can. I can actually normalize, optimize, align. I can actually smooth them out using unfold. See if that works. Kind of unfolds them as best it can. We'll just use it. We'll just use it. We'll just go with it. So here's the neck and the bottom of the head. You can see if I grab those sections, it's grabbing all the way around this neck. If I move and sew that, changes the shape quite a bit. But we're gonna roll with this. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect. Now let's attach, you know what, let's keep the neck separate. We're gonna keep it its own cylinder object, and maybe we'll just be okay that there's a seam right there. Or I might change my mind. So there's the neck. And move it over to the head. So these are the objects that we've kind of unwrapped so far. So I'm going to tuck these up out of the way. We're starting to create something we can paint on here. So for the body, we're going to kind of do the same thing. I think what I'm going to do is take the arm, work on that next. I'm going to go to UV, automatic unwrap. And you can see it breaks it up into a bunch of components right here. This is the nice thing about this low poly modeling assignment is we do not have an insane amount of triangles to work with. Okay, one of the big issues I have here is the hand is connected to the wrist. And that's going to cause an issue for me when I try and sew these all together because of the odd shapes. So I need to cut the wrist off of the hand. I'm going to go to the edge mode on where the wrist is on the hand. And if I hold down shift right click, I can cut. That actually put a cut those edges so that I can do that again. Cut that one. Cut all the wrist. I think this is where it is. All right, so now I can start sewing the arm together without too much trouble. One of the things I kind of want to do is see where the underneath is on this arm, and you notice it's right here, and that is not a seam. I actually want that to be a seam, because it's less visible underneath the arm, and people aren't going to notice the seam as much. So if the textures don't match up perfectly. I'm actually going to cut that section too. Hold down Shift, right click, and cut. Now I can start sewing the opposite edge together until it goes off. I'm hitting G to redo the move and sew. That's feeling pretty good. Okay. So now I've got, see, the arm is looking pretty good. And this is where you'll notice the seam though. If you look underneath the bottom of the arm, you can see that seam right across there where it's not matching up. Close enough. Okay, so we'll move that arm out of the way. I'm going to go to the shell. Boom. Way. So now we want to start sewing the hand together. Hands are always tough. These mitts are pretty easy though. Basically, if I have a seam like right here, pretty good, or around the thumbs, it's kind of uncomfortable. So I'm just going to kind of sew this whole hand together like a glove. Move and sew that little piece. Same for the other side. And now it's starting to come together. Let's see what edges. These are all the rest of the pieces of this hand we have to work with. Over here and see what we've got. So these go together. Some weird shapes here. So move. Where are you? Next to that one. Let's see. Where is this one? Okay, this one is the tip of the thumb. Side. So we'll do this one on this side. This guy, we will just. So there's the hand unwrapped. Sometimes you have weird things where you have these overlaps. Luckily, this is in between. This is like a flap of polygon, like inside the thumb. So it doesn't matter if it stretches a little bit. So I am just going to grab that UV and tuck it in. Same with this one, so we don't have UVs. So a little stretching is going to happen, but I'm not hurting anything. Okay. So there's the hand and the wrist. Set them over there so they can be buds. You know, maybe we'll make a watch for our character so you can't see that seam. But we're doing pretty good. We've unwrapped the head and the arm and the hand. Let's go do the leg now. And just to make our life easier, we'll do the leg and then we'll do the shoe. It's not how we did it before. That's how we're going to do it this time. Let's go to our magic unwrap tool. Boom, there is our leg. Where I want the seam to be on this leg is on the inside. I think it already is. No, it's not. They never go put them in the right place. This is where I want it, right on the inside of the leg. That way it's not very visible, so we'll just cut that. Draw the leg pieces, and now we can just start from either side. Side. So, and there's our leg. Willy wonky. Willy wonky. Let me see. I'm going to grab these, see if my. Yeah, look at that. It unfolded like a chain. Okay. We'll move the legs up here. I'm feeling pretty good about this so far. Like I said, if this seems confusing, we're going to repeat it a few times until it's like makes perfect sense. But these are the UVs. Basically, think about it as you're unfolding an orange, painting on it, and then putting the orange back on the object painted. I don't know if that's a great metaphor, but it makes sense to me. Okay, so we're going to grab the foot, UV, automatic unwrap. Start wrapping this puppy together. So if I select the faces of the shoe, you can see here's the top of the shoe. The edges that go down the front, that's great. I'm going to grab the sides. They start to make sense here now. Here's the hole where the shoe goes. Sorry, where the leg goes in between it. This is the sole of the shoe. So I can just stick that on one of the sides. Call it good. Back in. Bud. Some weird stuff going on, but this is where like love the unfold tool. You can select a few. Kind of unfold it for you. Maybe a little bit wonky. That's the best thing, the closest I've ever heard of like a make good tool. What is this one? This is the back of the shoe. So we'll just Ryan just said this is where the magic happens, and it's true. This is literally where the magic happens. And I think I can sew these front pieces of the shoe. Okay. That is pretty good. So you can see the sole of the shoe is just its own piece here. Wraps around pretty okay. All right, so we'll take that shoe, squish it. Okay, we're cruising. Basically, all we have left is the torso now. And this is one of the easier parts. One of the cool thing is what I can do is go into face mode, select marquee over all of the objects I've already UV unwrapped. And then in my 3D scene, if I hold down shift and marquee over the whole body, I'll select everything that I. So to quote occasional player, this is where the magic happens. So I'm going to hit mesh, or sorry, UV automatic, boom. Here's the body down here. You can see it matches the curved shape of that side view. Here's the front body, so I wrap it back around, decide where I want the seam to be, which I think I actually want the seam to be right under the armpit, right here. Actually, no, what I can do for this one, I think what I'm going to do is leave a seam right here on the shoulder up top and split it out like that since I'm doing it based on the center of the. I think that'll work better. I'm going to start sewing this gate back together. So this belly piece that kind of acts weird, we're just going to sew that back on too. This is that piece that goes underneath between the legs. So it's going to stick out. I could just remove that all together and have it be a separate piece. That might be easier. Because it's kind of underneath and it's not a piece that's really viewed, or decide what to do with it. Grab it by the shell and move it away. This is the top part of the body. Here. So merge that together. Move and sew. Kind of some weird stuff going on here. Combine that. That's the arm. And this is actually where I wanted it cut. Right. Not the best not the best place to have a seam, but this is Dice Man. So let's move that out of the way and go into this. Select these edges. So snap this guy there. Let's see if I can magically unfold this a little bit. So this will work. This is the hole actually where the arm goes. Folds up kind of like. And yeah, we're gonna leave that other piece separated. So this is, so now we've completely unwrapped our gumdrop dude. We're gonna be painting him as a class tomorrow. But I do want to do something called, I want to pack all these UVs in as tightly as possible. And I want to build a hierarchy. So I want to figure out which of these are the most important pieces on my model. And I want the checkerboard to be smaller on those pieces, meaning that the UV space is larger. If you remember, we're going to be wanting to pack these in as tightly to a 512 texture space so we can have them be texture. One of the things I'm going to do, I'm going to start moving these all in space. To me, I think the torso is one of the most important pieces, and the head. The head on a character is always should be the largest because that's the most recognized. So I'm going to grab the head, neck, but we're going to keep that as large as possible. An important piece. Just a minute. Here's the feet. Arguably, the feet aren't that. Now we want to have enough room for the arms and the legs stuff in. So a lot of times, a lot of this comes with practice and just getting used to it, and then resizing and adjusting afterwards. See where. So the legs, I'm going to see if I can, kind of looking like they should fit down here somewhere. So I'm going to do that just for speed tonight. There are unpacking tools. I think Maya has some better ones too. It's going to close as I can. So the neck looks like it could fit there. So we're just, then we're going to see how it looks in Photoshop. See if we can get. Over here, little texture space for. Okay, so one thing I want you to keep in mind is for the sake of the demo, the Poet 2012-02 asks, is it okay for a model to have multiple materials on it so the UVs can be bigger? Yeah, that happens a lot in the game industry. So a lot of times, actually, they'll separate the textures for like the head of a character many times. And then for the clothing and the accessories will be different. But I think it's not uncommon for a model to have multiple. At 4 or 5, you could have a separate one for the hair with the alpha maps. The eyeball could be its own texture map, and maybe the eyeball is multiple models. So quick answer is yes. If you're not one of my students, you're just hopping in. Hello, how are you doing? This is a low poly demo we're doing, so we're trying to keep this down to one texture map and as low as possible. It's a beginner. So keep in mind, everybody, if I were really spending the time on this for like a professional like portfolio piece or my final project, I would spend more time on this, making sure the UVs are packed as tight as possible, as efficient as possible, and there are a lot more nuances that go into this, like pixel direction and angles and all of that. But because this is an intro class, I don't want to overwhelm you with all of the details. If this is something you want to continue doing, then you'll be able to revisit this because there's a lot to UV unwrapping, there's a lot to modeling, there's a lot to texture painting. This is a 3-week condensed course, so I kind of have to be judicious in what I share so that we're able to hit all the objectives, of course. But as far as things go, I think this is okay for now, as far as this character being unwrapped. So you can see I just unwrapped half of them. Here's the magic of Maya, though. If I take this character now and duplicate special, you'll see that the UVs don't change, they stay the same. So they're mirrored across this object. So whatever I paint on one side will paint on the other as well. You can see I could have lined up the torso better so that they matched better on the seams, but it's okay. This is all going to work just fine. So we could even combine this character. Vertices back together. So now it's one object with just one mirrored UV set. So let's paint this character. So we have 4 or 5 minutes left in for a lecture in this class. Tomorrow we're going to work on poly painting, but I want to show you tonight how to add some simple colors to this character just using Photoshop, just like we did with the dye. I'm actually just going to use my mouse, so it's like super awesome. So let's export this texture map. I'm going to select the object, which is the gumdrop dude, and go to image, UV snapshot. We're just going to do the same thing. We'll just make this a 512 by 512, just like we did before. We will call it gumdrop UV. And hit apply and close. Now let's open up our old Photoshop. Gumdrop UV, here you are, my buddy. And you can see here are the UV maps we just made. So we're going to do the same thing with this file. I'm going to go to image, adjustments, invert. You know, I could have made the background white and the edges black, but I didn't because. So we're going to duplicate this layer and we're going to name it UV, UVS. Change it from normal to multiply, paint under it, and make a new layer. Okay, so we're going to start painting on this. Hit B. So I'm going to color code these just so we can see what colors would be inside this. So let's do this. So let's actually, I think I might just use the E tool for this. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So I remember this was the head right here. So let's color the head. Let's pretend it's a Martian. We're going to color the head like a light green. It's going to marquee around that head. Color it completely. I think I'm going to color each individual island. Edit fill, foreground color. Okay. That's the light green for the head, right? For the leg, let's see, the neck is down here. Select that. What color should we do just do it like a darker green? Darker green neck. Fill. So that's darker green on the neck. And for the torso here, the body. It's like a nice blue. Enter. It's blue. Hands. Arms. Zelda. We're going to do a bright. We're just going to do like a rainbow color just to show how each island or each sections of UVs have a different respond to. And then these would be easy to just marquee tool later, Photoshop, and change them. And this was underneath the body, so I'm going to leave it that same blue color because I want it to. So same blue. Okay, and shoes. Cruising. To get down here. Shoes should be yellow. They'll be like legs should be brown. What should the legs be? Yellow. Boom. All right. So we've colored every island. Every piece of UV that we unwrapped of our character has been colored. I'm just going to hide the UV outlines because we don't want those to be on our character. We want it off. So this may look just like random splotches of color, but each one is associated to a specific part of our character's body. So let's export that. Gumdrop color. Just seems like good. We'll hit save. All right, let's open back our let's open up back this character. I need to make a new material now for him. Go into our hypershade, which is still up. New Lambert. Name this gumdrop color. Boom and boom. We'll check the checker box. Open up a file. Select the folder. Up here under, where are you? Gumdrop color. There you are, PNG. Here we go. We're going to hit open. And it's not on there yet. I still need a middle mouse drag. And boom. Look at that. So that's what I kind of wanted to show. That each section of that unwrapped character corresponds with a section of the body. You see that hard line going down the middle? So we're going to fix that. Soften these. Display soften. Okay. And we got a bunch of pieces. Okay, so now we've color coded each section of this body. Now we can really start painting in Photoshop, if that's what we want to do. I'm going to do some rough guesstimates of where the face pieces would be on him, and then we'll just see how it looks. Tomorrow I'm going to show a much better way to start painting this character, and we'll all do that together. Zero Break, thank you. How you doing? Okay. So let us hop into Photoshop. So we're going to turn back on our UVs so we can see where the corresponding pieces are in there. So we are going to add some, what should we add? Any recommendations? So let's do a face on our character. We do have these lines as a guide. So if we look back in Maya, I think I want to put an eyeball like right here on the center of this line right here. Let's do that. Then this will be a trial and error thing. I think it was right here. Let's go into my brush tool. Go to white. Just to block out where that eyeball might go. We thinks. I'm just using my. We think there's an eye right here. In fact, let's give him a googly eye, just to be extra creepy. Okay. We'll give him that eye, just because we're nice. Okay, so that's where we're putting an eyeball. Okay, now let's put a mouth on our character. Let's look at the Maya. And we're just guesstimating, so I think I put a big eyeball right here. So we'll see how close I am. And we'll put a mouth right here along this line. I could be off. It's gonna. To paint. Okay, here's our mouth. Complete with teeth. What is this monstrosity? And just for fun, let's give him a little nose. saturate. Here's where his nose. Okay. Why not give him? Oh my God. This could be a disaster, my friends. Okay, you ready for this? Here we go. File, export, PNG. And it's going to save over our. So the nice thing is now that we've added that material with it, it's going to look scary. It is going to look scary. Since we've added that color now, we should have a drops. Since we've already added the material, now whenever I save over that PNG, it should just automatically update in Maya, so I don't have to go through that whole process anymore. But we're going to hit save. Gumdrop color already exists. Do you want to replace it? Indeed, I do. Are you guys ready? So Gloria asks, so if we were coloring characters, are we estimating the location of the things, facial features, and clothes? If we're doing it the way I am showing you, yes. If we do it the way I'm going to show you tomorrow, life will be much easier and you will actually just paint right on the model. But I'm going in steps. Does that make sense? May not make sense. It'll make sense tomorrow. So Gloria, the answer is no and yes. We will fix it tomorrow. This is the way we go, step by step, line upon line. I try not to. Where is it? It didn't update. All right. That made a liar out of me. Let's make this thing up. Let's go to Window, Render Editors, Hypershade. We need to refresh this guy. That really chaps my. Make it we'll do it manually. Figure out why. There it is. Look at that. Here we go. You ready? Did I click save on Photoshop? Well, maybe that's the problem. I exported. I didn't save. Okay, you ready? Here it is. Here it is. The moment of truth. Oh my, what? That worked out better than I thought it would. So it's a little wonky, right? Because I sewed some of the edges together instead of keeping them perfectly flat. But it's a good start of our amazing, incredible gumdrop dude. And the beautiful thing about this lecture today, I only went 10 minutes over. Okay. It's Professor Do. It is Professor Do. Everyone say hi to Professor Do. Okay, my friends. So everyone in my class, this has been a lecture on UV unwrapping. In like 2 days before the weekend, you will be unwrapping your characters. And so I want you to spend as much time today and the rest of class working on your characters, on working out the modeling. Do your best. Keep it very simple, like Mr. Gumdrop Dude. He's only 600 triangles, and that's okay. You can go well below if you need to. And then I will be modeling my rocket raccoon in just a minute. I'll be back to that. And if you have any questions, let me know. But hopefully with my rocket raccoon demo, that will help as well. I'm hoping to get the modeling all done with him tonight so that I can unwrap him tomorrow morning when I wake up, because it's 11 p.m. now here. When I wake up, I'm going to unwrap him. I will have that on video as well, so you can watch that. And then I can get started on painting him so that you'll have plenty of reference to look at. Paint your. Does that sound good to everyone? Thumbs up. Thumbs up if you like it. Thumbs down if you think I should just go to sleep now. Silence if you're completely ambivalent and you don't. All right, we got a thumbs up. Got some hoorays. All right, good deal. We've ripped off the Band-Aid of UV mapping and texturing. We've ripped it right off. We can't put it back on. We've spilled the beans. UVs are a thing. That is how you color. This is how game characters get colored in video games. So now you know, and the more you know, the more dangerous you are, the game artist. All right, my friends, I'm going to take a little break to drink some chocolate milk. I'm not joking. I got a big thing of chocolate milk here. And to take care of a few things for a few minutes. And I will see you back here in 10. Hey, everybody. You guys want the good news or the bad news? I just kind of want to paint this guy now. I've got Rocket Raccoons to paint this. Seems a little. Oh, I don't have any bad news. Sorry. It's all good news. Bad news is I'm back. Some Rocket Raccoon. That's also late, and I'm late. That's cool. So let's save. We'll save. Oh, look at this. It's Rocket. Hey, Rocket Raccoon. So I need some opinions from my students. Did that all make sense, or was it just like, holy crap, what is or holy smokes, what is this magic? Okay, so last time we were here, we built these shoulder pads, and I'm not crazy about. I need to be able to build them out so they have this. Actually, so if I want that piece on, it just needs to come out. Wish it was more rounded, but I'll. Fatal error. Oh my goodness, this is the famous Maya crash. I have not had a fatal error in Maya for from time to time, my friends. Luckily, I had done practically. Dove's Ope says it was difficult. Actually, the latter. A bit of magic. Smiley face. Yeah, this is why, like, these important core concepts like UV unwrapping and modeling, this is why we do it over and over and over again. So by the end of the semester, it doesn't seem like this crazy thing you learned, that it's something that you were like, yeah, I understand it enough that I can continue to improve. I didn't save, but I had done like literally. Why are you acting so weird now? I crashed during a section. Oh, look at this. Save it. It said I could save stuff, but it's fine. It's fine. Look at that. Here he is again. All I did was adjust his nose. Can do it. Save him though. I'm gonna do save point. It's to save. Save often. Speed rocket. Everybody keep working on your models. Some more. All right. Looks like a raccoon silhouette. I'm going to go ahead and say I think it does. Side view. So it's so much more round. I'm just going to have to live with it. So I can find some extra poly somewhere. The character has hair. How should you build them? So I would build the model bald, and then we can talk about hair a little bit tomorrow. But you have a couple options. But really, depends. If the hair is like one big piece, you could model it as one piece and then model it the hair off of it. And if it's strands, then you could do something like, strands of hair. You could do something hair that goes out as a plane. Just have it kind of go like that, and you would. But I would worry about hair more towards the end after you get more added. Yeah, hair is never, especially on low poly. But we could look at some examples too of how how other characters have done it. Okay, so I'm going to work on the hands and the feet, and then I think the backpack. My goal is to be done modeling tonight, so I can unwrap and start painting, and that we can, I can upload all of this Rocket Raccoon stuff to case anybody finds it helpful. So he has toes, but they're so tiny. I'm going to do the same thing I did like Gumdrop dude. Keep these as minimal as possible because really his toes are least important. It's as important as the rest of them. Yeah, I used the cube freers. So if you watch my VOD from yesterday, you can see exactly how I did it. Cubes and smoothed it. See, how does his toes go? His toes are kind of, you can see his toes, they just have this kind of round shape. They actually come out. That. It's 3/4 view. They kind of have a rounded shape too. Taper in. Okay. Yes, kite. Okay. Absolutely. All right, look at that. He's got feet. Soft. Go tighter on the. Like this edge loop bottom isn't necessarily. Also, let's. We'll probably have to do a poly reduction later. I actually don't. It's kind of cool how the toe comes off the edge. I'm almost. The heel, that edge is really nice, so I want to this much. That just look. Such a good looking foot until I had to so much of it. Actually, I still think it's smaller. Okay. Oh, Polly. Set this to 0, 0, 0. We will duplicate special. Kite, did you send those to me now? Can I look at them now? Concern is it'll be 1 a.m. Okay. Kite, I just saw it and I responded, but let me see if I can respond to a couple things for you really quick, because I responded via email, but just to super visual. Oh, his feet are looking nice. I'm about ready to start painting this dude. Okay. So you had some issues with the polygons that had turned black. So my guess is that is a issue where the normal has been reversed. It's basically you're looking at the wrong side of the polygon, like that, right? So something like that. So to fix that, just select the face that has been reversed and go to Mesh Display Reverse. That will flip the normals back around. Should look right again. Apparently, after you do that, you may soften these. That'll fix it. The other option issue you had was the gap between your model. So if you're holding on the vertice mode and holding down X and trying to snap it and it's not working, it could be that your model got moved away, just like I just moved mine, away from 0, 0, 0. So to fix that, I would actually delete the other side, make sure that the pivot of your object is at 0, 0, 0, because if it's off even just a little bit, it'll never snap up even. So make sure you're on 0, 0, 0, then recreate your duplicate. You should be able to snap them together on the the third thing I noticed is it looked like you were in this mode, which is subdivision modeling mode. And normally I'd be fine with that in most classes where we're actually doing subdivision modeling, but we're not in this class. This is only in low poly, so tapping the number 1 key will bring that back to you. There you go. That should, I think that answered all your questions. Let's build some hands for this raccoon. Some hands. Some hands. Oh, it's the Salisbury steak. So we are sitting at 100. I want to keep this under 1,000 tries. Sounds great. Glad I could help, my friend. That's what I'm here for. Make you guys the world's best 3D modeler. Just 3 weeks. Done. Hi. Saves the day. really. So if I'm gonna do fingers, any fingers, but how pointy should I make? So like, moon. Is that terrible? We'll fix it in post production. So, oh, expensive fingers on. Still have no bueno, man. Not the best, but not the worst thing I've ever seen. Splam. But it's that, or I do a maybe. Nope, we're gonna convinced our rock. On you, you don't give up. Simple. Keep it simple, keep it fresh. So let's see how it looks smooth. The most amazing thing I've ever seen. This hand actually. Side of the oh, just not a lot of I can. I'm gonna add the extra geometry and then so let's see. Some later. It's in post. Together. See, it's got some wonky ugliness to it. That's the beauty. So, kind of stuff. So round. Avi. So the rocket's like done for the most part. I need to keep him. I need to optimize him. As far as this class, we're not. This is not like a project. So 1,200 tries. No. See, that's the problem with hands. They're so spendy. So I need to shave off 200 triangles. Okay, the tail's big. You know what? Got some weird stuff like this gem. I don't need that quality of a gem. Free up a few polygons. I mean, saved up 8. Yeah, so a little bit here, a little bit. This backpack's gonna be. Is not. Place I always said I could shave some. I'm not excited about. So let's. Saved up a few polygons here and there. Look how low poly that head is, though. That doesn't. It's to squish. To look. Let's try something. City. Just trying to see if I can construct the backpack from the backside. Possibly get that shape attached to his back. interested in. I'm doing. Uh, Excuse me. Rufiku, how are you doing, my friend? Burning the midnight oil, buddy. Midnight oil. Modeling a rocket raccoon. Low poly raccoon. Oh, it is. It's almost 2:30, isn't it? Decided to put a little detail into his little backpack here. Seemed like a good idea at the time. Not here in Salt Lake City, though. It's 12:26, my friend. In South Korea, it is 2:30. No, 3:30, right? 3:30 p.m. I thought you said it's almost 2:30. No, 12:30. No, I'm teaching a class in South Korea using Twitch. So the assignment, the project we're doing is a low poly action character. Gloria says, "Yep, it's 3:26." We're doing a low poly action character, and so I found some concept art for Rocket Raccoon. No, this is lab time. This is lab time. So I lectured the first hour of class. I lectured on UV unwrapping and texture painting, and then the last 2 hours is my students are able to work on their projects, and I am working on the same project and answering questions. I like to eat my own dog food. Say. Excuse me. Settles fast. See, I decided to add the backpack, and now he's 1,246 triangles. Only place I can really reduce very much is the tail. And edge ring and collapse. So that reduced his tail size. It still looks pretty good. Now that saved another 50 triangles. I could make the chest one big triangle. I could. Other option on the it doesn't. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, let's see. How bad it will. Like that, but this is gonna mess up his tail. Oh, that's sad. Oh no. Still passable though. That took me down another 50 triangles. Just need to resize it now. Yeah, I'm tempted to leave them this heavy, but then my students would think I'm a liar. Can't follow my own advice. Okay, let's collapse. That will reduce. Okay, so yeah. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Shaved off a couple more tries. Down to 1142, 1142. Okay, this will shave off a few more. Watch this action. Merge to center, boom. That shaved off some more. All these triangles. 1130.